A recent poll that was done by the East African found that at least 15 CEOs from Uganda, Kenya, Rwanda and Tanzania expect harsh economic times this year. This is mainly on the back of fears over Kenya's political environment ahead of the general election. On Friday, 3 judges of Kenya's Constitutional Court declined to set a date officially for elections, leaving it in the hands of the ruling Grand Coalition for them to decide the timetable for dissolution of Parliament. We're joined by David Makali, a political analyst from our studios in Kenya. David, thanks so much for your time. So the judges don't want to decide. They're leaving it to the Prime Minister and the President. Will they be able to decide on time? Everybody expects elections later this year.
Well, everybody expects that the two principals will exercise statesmanship and be able to give the Kenyan people an election this year, because the country is actually so to speak, in an election mood. So I don't think they are likely to disappoint that expectation.
What is the process that is involved? Because we're told first there must be a dissolution of Parliament, and that could only happen around October, which effectively would mean that elections could be held early 2013.
Well, the election is supposed to be held 60 days after the dissolution of Parliament. So depending on when it's dissolved, if it's dissolved in June, if the principals or the two partners agree to dissolve the Parliament in August, it means elections will be in December. It's the dissolution of Parliament that triggers an election, which has to be held within 60 days. In the circumstances that the court outlined, which is that according to the national accord under which this government is formed, the two of them can agree to dissolve the government, and then therefore elections have to be held within 60 days.
Right.
Otherwise, then we have to follow the whole calendar, which is until the expiry of the current term, which would be, according to the courts, January 15th next year, which means elections then will have to be held 60 days, within 60 days from January 15th of next year.
How ready is Kenya to hold an election? I mean, you have a new constitution that most people are happy with. It should set the basic parameters.
Well, the constitution is very clear. It says that elections will be held the first Tuesday or the second Tuesday of the 5th year of every election season. I mean, the life of Parliament. After every 5 years, the second Tuesday of August. But that is in subsequent elections. This first election, which is a transitional election, is exempt from that provision. Looking at that and what is going on in the country right now, the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission has said that according to what is required to put together a credible election, considering this election is going to be unique in that it's been expanded, there are more seats to be contested, the country has been reorganized administratively, it will take at least up to August to, elections can only be held after August if they're really going to be credible and well organized, devoid of the past political crisis we've held.
I'm glad you mentioned that past political crisis, because the international media was awash with images of violence, disruptions, ethnic tensions, just the worst kind of post-electoral dispute. How have authorities ensured that that doesn't happen in terms of the contestation? But secondly, it's that fear that's created some sort of an overhang on the elections to unfold. People are really scared of the risk sentiment, or they're really scared of what might happen, and that's created a huge political risk sentiment for Kenya.
Yes. Well, I think there is a lot of fear and preponderance arising from the way the 2007 elections were conducted. And the circumstances of that time are totally not available, do not obtain in Kenya right now, because at that time the election was being conducted by by an electoral commission that was disputed from its setup. And the election was hotly contested in an environment that had a lot of political mistrust. Since that time, a lot of administrative, political, and legal structures have been put in place to prevent a recurrence of similar crises. And there is no doubt at all that these elections this year are going to be held in a manner that is devoid of the past rigging, past political violence and manipulation. And therefore, there is a lot more confidence that this year's elections will be smooth, which has been helped by the fact that, for example, the International Criminal Court came in to try and address the political impunity that in the past caused political violence at every election cycle. So we expect that this year's elections are going to be very smooth, despite the political tension that accompany every election. I don't think that it should be such as worrying as past elections, and I don't think that it should be so disruptive of economic activities that are going on in this country, or should be scaring to foreign investors.